Hello, my name is Will Larche, and I'm the lead Flutter engineer for material design at Google. I'm an engineer whose entire purpose is supporting designers through Flutter. Flutter is Google's new SDK for developing apps. It allows you to deploy apps on multiple platforms from one code base. Essentially, you can have the same app run on iOS and Android, but without compromising quality or speed of development. Today, I'm so excited to show you why Flutter is an amazing platform for executing pixel-perfect design, how Flutter enables consistent, platform-aware experiences, and how designers can use Flutter to make exciting, beautiful designs come to life. But let's take a step back first. Right now, good design is expensive, it's true, especially on mobile. It takes extra engineering resources to execute, and what you want is rarely what you get. The designer hands us something detailed and beautiful, but we push back on what makes it special. We wanted to do the branded mobile button, but it was easier to use a stock icon. A custom app bar is just too complex, and well, for the custom tabs, we ran out of time, We end up compromising on the details that make an experience excellent and end up shipping something that's just good enough. It has the most important features, but none of the finesse. So with the best of intentions, we say we'll get to them later. But let's be honest, later never comes. The tickets sit in our backlog, but we never delete them because that would be admitting defeat. But what gets me excited about Flutter is that we can break that cycle. We can ship the app we really want with detail and polish and fewer of those painful compromises. Flutter's architecture is designed for building beautiful custom UI. Flutter's main goal is to make building polished custom app experiences easier for developers and designers. Firstly, Flutter's powerful enough to draw anything designers dream up. It's built on Skia, the open source graphics engine used by Adobe, Chrome, and Amazon Kindle. We can get print quality typography without needing to dive down to low-level frameworks like Core Text. There's easy-to-use APIs for character spacing and word spacing. Its animation and motion framework is more finely tunable than anything I've ever seen on mobile before. We've looked closely at what developers need to execute complex, high-fidelity designs on the devices of today and put it at their fingertips instead of burying it in obscure, hard-to-learn frameworks. And we've used these APIs to make a component library expressing opinionated and flexible design standards. Material components for Flutter. These are extensible widgets designed by the material design team here at Google. If you haven't heard, we released a major expansion of material, making the system more flexible and expressive. And the Flutter team has done a great job implementing material components to our specifications, so we can get a beautifully themed experience out of the box. On Flutter, material is beautiful. It's a platform powerful enough to draw anything designers dream up. It's also extensible. We can extend the existing material components to support almost anything, and often much more easily than in traditional code. But maybe most impressively, material is fast. I actually built these screens in about half an hour or less on the subway ride to work one morning. The layout system in Flutter is just that intuitive. I believe material design is the most expressive and flexible cross-platform design system you could need. But Flutter is powerful enough to implement any design system. So material isn't the only library that comes with Flutter. You also get Cupertino, a faithful implementation of Apple's iOS design language. Cupertino gives us action sheets, alerts, segment controls, sliders, switches, nav bars, over 24 widgets that look like they came right out of UIKit, but 100% open source. So if I have a question about how text fields work, I can go look at the source code. And coming from traditional iOS programming, that's mind-blowing. You can't do that with private APIs. With all the widgets and material components in Cupertino, you're all set for writing immersive, specific experiences in either of the two most important mobile design languages. But Flutter takes this a step further by allowing some common widgets to adjust their look or behavior depending on the platform the app runs on. In fact, both the core SDK and packages from the very active Flutter design community can make this as easy as adding one word to your code. For instance, a switch widget should look like this on iOS and like this on Android. It's a simple change, but one that's profound to your users. Our research has shown that patterns habituate motor response, and that changes in those patterns that cause relearning can double the amount of time it takes a user to complete their task. Building and maintaining consistent patterns through predictable UI is a core tenet of good design. Adapting to the platform is a part of that. On Flutter, that's easy. Just add the .adaptive constructor to your switch widget or your switch list tile widget, and your iOS apps will get a Cupertino switch for free. Flutter has other platform-aware details, and there are more all the time. In fact, anytime you want to make your own platform-specific logic, just use the platform class. While we believe the best app designs show platform-aware consistency, Flutter is powerful enough to support entirely different experiences depending on the runtime operating system. You are never forced into one style. Now, I believe the best multi-platform apps use rich branding-based theming to express the essence of their company's branding personality visually. It's a trend we see a lot of today. Every year, Material gives out awards for outstanding digital product design, and the class of 2018 really blew us away. We recognized bold theming and innovation in apps like Anchor and Lyft. Here, you can really see how the rounded white, purple, and magenta theming is an extension of the rounded white logo and the gradient projected by their trademark amp. The extended pill-shaped fab is actually like the shape of the amp. It's really beautiful and evocative of the brand. Easy, powerful theming is critical to effective, efficient UI engineering. In a large app, you don't want your engineers setting every parameter of every widget every time. That's why we've been expanding our theming APIs. Over a dozen widgets have fine-grained theming capabilities for their customizable properties, like colors, padding, shape, border, and typography. In fact, text has its own theme, so you can have as many different text treatments as your style guide calls for. Sometimes different sections of your app have different looks to help users understand where they are. In traditional iOS code, doing this automatically with theming is often impossible. But with Flutter, themes are inheritable and scopable. Like your UI, they are just widgets in the tree. If you want a piece of your app to have a different theme, wrap it in a theme widget. The children of its theme will be the only widgets that have its style. Flutter's support for bold, expressive styling means your vision can be realized in pixel-perfect detail. And we can't wait to see the products you release using our tools. Apps all over the world, from international brands like Capital One, Groupon, and Hamilton, to startups and enterprise solutions, have shipped using Flutter. Let's take a look at some of them. award-winning journaling app that you just saw in that video is called Reflectly. It has well over 1 million users, and we've brought its designer and founder, Jacob Kristensen, here to tell you a little more about its design and how they built it with Flutter. Jacob?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob. I am a co-founder at Reflectly, where I do UX UI design, but I also do front-end development. Now, I'm here today to tell you a bit about Reflectly, but also to tell you how Flutter actually enables us to push our product visions into the hands of millions of end users all around the world. Now, Reflectly is what we call a conversation-based journal. What this means is that everyday users open up the app and go through a series of questions. However, instead of just giving them a blank page and they have to fill it in with text, we actually prompt them with very specific UI interactions. So they might rate their day with a little smiley face slider, or they'll select an icon that best represented how their day actually went. This is all bundled into what we call a story, and is shown as a little card in a horizontal list. Users can then go back in their journal and always reread what they were doing or how they were feeling. However, notice these lovely transitions between going from the card view and into the actual full screen view. This is all due to Flutter's Hero widget, which actually out of the box does all this heavy lifting for us, so we can focus on what we really want to do, our core user experience. We also show our users personalized insights and statistics. This actually allows them to go back and track how they've actually been personally progressing. Now, this is what Reflectly looks like today, but I'd like to take you back and show you our process, what it was like before we actually jumped on Flutter. Now, we're zooming back to the start of 2018, where we built Reflectly in a completely different multi-platform framework. And if you're an eagle-eyed audience member, you'll see that there are some, let's call them minor discrepancies between the two views. And we were unfortunately seeing this time and time again. We would push some new features, and the consistency simply wouldn't be there. We would see that they were lacking, for example, here, half of the screen is missing. So we were really, really frustrated with this. And we would literally build for iOS first, and then build it for Android, and then backpatch it for iOS. And we were spending weeks on getting the same features out instead of days. And we said, enough is enough. We don't want to do this anymore. It couldn't be true that our cross-platform framework was actually showing us down and forcing us to push our business requirements again and again. But where do you go as a small startup? We were 2 engineers at the time, myself for front-end alone. So we started looking at the market again, and we found Flutter. And it was extremely promising. However, we had to make a very conscious business decision. Do we invest the time in actually building out in this new framework, or do we go native and actually build 2 code bases? Well, we took a leap of faith. And from the first line of Flutter code was written in March 2018, with the learning curve of Dart and building out all these new features underway, we were done in just 2.5 months, which was incredible because we were rebuilding our entire front end and our back end, just 2 engineers. And this wasn't just a one-off with Flutter for us. This has actually been a process since then continuously. So a great example of this is our new statistics page. And the redesign for this was actually on my drawing board only last week. Now, I handed off to our new front-end lead, and from there we kind of scope it out. And then he starts building. And he starts building everything from the bottom up, because that's basically how we do it. So he builds the custom graphs, all the animations, all the custom accompanying UI, and then it's done. And from handoff to completed finished view takes only 3 days for us. And this is a pixel-perfect implementation from what I design to what I get. So I can dream up these crazy elaborate UIs if I so please, and we can actually build them, which is incredible for us. And I think this speaks a lot to how Flutter is actually enabling us to push out new features extremely quickly without actually compromising on what we actually want to push out. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here today is personalized experiences. And at Reflectly, we believe that all great app experiences should be user-centric. Users should feel like they're welcome in your app. They should feel like it's built with them in mind. But then again, users are also very different. It's like asking 100 people what's your favorite color. Well, you're bound to get some different answers. Mine is green. So we go in and then at a very high level include stuff like theming. And as you've seen, what Will mentioned, it's easy with Flutter. But it just gives this layer of personalized experience that you can't really get without actually allowing users to implement their own subjective values on your app. So to sum it up, Flutter allows us to move extremely quickly. We can build these crazy ideas if we so please, but shipping code extremely fast and with confidence to all these users, millions of users all around the world. Thank you.
Reflectly is a beautiful example of how you can build an app in Flutter that has a custom design language. And it's so gratifying to see designer developers use Flutter to realize their ideas. We know there's a lot of independent developers out there who do their own design. And since you get so much out of the box, Flutter is a great platform for you. And we also know there's a lot of designers who code or want to code. Over and over, we hear from designers who want to understand the engineers better, to speak the same language, and participate in the execution more instead of just throwing designs over a wall and hoping for the best. We also hear that designers don't want to be annoying to their engineers. They depend upon them and respect them, but sometimes they have to tweak values, which could either mean sending a litany of tickets or making an appointment to sit with the engineer while they input the values and you give feedback. Instead of passively watching the construction, designers could be a part of it, carving out a role after the dev has begun as the arbiters of fine detail, supporting their engineers and eliminating unnecessary feedback, tickets, and effort. Flutter, I believe, is the platform where that can finally really happen. Designers can really learn to support engineers by sharing the code base, to quickly pick up the skills necessary to feel useful and connected to the development. Because it just makes sense. We've done user research and testing on the development process to find ways that we can make it more intuitive and fast to code without sacrificing power. And this reactive declarative widget model is the key. Also, layout isn't some abstracted layer that you have to add on top of your widgets. In Flutter, it just works. And it's made of widgets too. Want to know why a button is behaving the way it is? Well, just look at its parents. It's usually their fault. And if you're debugging a complex layout example, open the Widget Inspector. This is a free tool that's automatically added to Android Studio or IntelliJ, or as of today, available as a standalone when you make a Flutter project. Put it in select mode and click on something in your app. You'll see what that widget is and who its parent is. Even the canvas drawing APIs are carefully thought out. So if you've ever wanted to get into creative coding but felt the learning curve was too steep, Flutter might be the right platform for you. It's a great place to start putting your art on screen. In fact, recently the community added experimental support for Raspberry Pi, essentially unlocking a world of possibilities for art installations, interactive media, and industrial UI. Flutter is also a great platform for prototyping or personal projects. Getting up and running and putting something of your own on a phone is surprisingly easy, and development is surprisingly fast. One of my engineers, Anthony, made this awesome app that shows you historical photos from locations. The data was pre-existing, the maps are something that comes from Flutter, and the rest was just about 150 lines of custom code that he had to write. You can take a look at it and other code from today on GitHub in the Material Components Flutter experimental repo and the Flutter gallery. By the way, Anthony's map app is a great example of the kind of stuff we want to see in the Flutter Create Challenge. It's a fabulous contest with prizes. All you have to do is build something interesting, inspiring, and beautiful with Flutter using 5 kilobytes or less of custom Dart code. Learn all about it at flutter.dev/create. Noob or not, anyone can do it if you have an idea. All this is so inspiring, isn't it? Flutter is doing this. That's why I believe we have finally opened the doors of mobile app development to the world at large. Think about it. When the web first came out, if you could get it hosted, anybody could write some text and publish it to their friends instantly without having to understand the technology underneath it. This let people dabble and play with the web. But mobile apps haven't been like that. They're hard to develop and expensive. Who knows how many good ideas have actually been lost because the dreamer couldn't build it or afford to build it. I've seen people with the next great startup idea say, I will build this myself, and buckle down and try to learn how, only to fail and give up. Flutter changes all of this. This could finally be the time when mobile app development is democratized. For the very first time, anyone with a simple idea can put it on an app, and an app that's for everyone, Android and iOS. Amateur apps by anyone, professional polish in record time, designers sitting with engineers, a new platform for creative coding and digital art. I can't wait to see what else the world will create when they discover the ease and excitement of building with Flutter. So what did we go through today? I showed you that Flutter is built for good design, that excellent multi-platform experiences are easier to execute with it, and how designers and artists themselves can use Flutter to make their vision reality. So let's stop saying we'll do all the things later, the polish, the prototype, the startup idea, and let's do them now. To get started and learn more, see the information in Code Labs at flutter.dev and material.io. Thank you.